Hi, my name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus By Design. And this is another day in my personal spiritual practice, which I call Satsang of One, where I listen to a lecture from the Be Here Now podcast featuring Ram Dass. I journal some quotes of interest. I create a physical journal with the quotes, and then I pull an animal oracle card for meditation and reflection. And this is part of my personal wellness recovery action planning as a tool. It helps me in my daily maintenance, and it's just a really great tool that I use for myself in order to do some reflection and to, I don't know, to motivate myself, I guess. So today's quotes are around the roots of suffering. So it was a pretty heavy day, but a really good one as far as the conversation goes. And one thing that I know about Ram Dass um, is that he's done extensive work around this topic. And what I love about listening to the podcast and learning more and more about his outlook is that he just shares stories from his understanding, from his own experience. And that's really important for me as far as accessing new information or information that can be, tough or filled with judgments, right? So the first quote is the way we deal. Even though I was high and really out there in bliss and rapture, there was still suffering inherent to that situation. The reason was that there was an aversion to the physical, worldly, psychological stuff. I had gotten high through pushing it away. I didn't really want to have congress with it. I began to see that the pushing away of the world was a stance, and that stance made me frightened of that world. Frightened that it would be, or that it would undercut my high, my feeling of spiritual connectedness. Ram Dass. Why suffering? The cost of doing that veiling means that you protect your heart, and it feels protected and less vulnerable. But it is also deadened in that process. There is no longer the living spiritual interchange of energy that comes from being in love in the universe. Ram Dass. It's all perfect. I could see immediately that one could use it's all perfect, like it's all karma, as a rationalization for not acting. We are not talking about the cheap cop out, which is not what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with is where one can stand in one's awareness. That allows one to be in the presence of what is in the universe without closing the heart. Ram Dass. And then this is what I wrote down as under a heading of Suffering 102, the coursework for becoming a full human being. There is a tremendous fear of the vulnerability to your human heart. I can't bear it. I've got to look away. Many of us have had the experience of being very young and having our first love affair gone awry, and having our heart broken and thinking I'll never open my heart again, it's too painful. Most of us, after a while, after we've grieved our loss, something turned and we're ready again to start again. Many of us have opened our hearts many times and have had them broken many times, and we keep growing and growing and growing and growing. Instead of looking at that as our failures of life and the pathology, to look at it as the process of life. Just that little flip of consciousness as the process of your life. I look back on the suffering of my life and I may be really weird, but I see them now as gifts. I wouldn't have asked for them in a second. I hated them while I was having them. I protested as loudly as I could, but they happened anyway. And now in retrospect, as I look back and now see the way in which they deepened my being immeasurably. In the Noble Truths, Buddha talks of suffering, the inherent ways of things. Then he talks about the end of suffering, and he points out that the cause of suffering of an individual has to do with the way their mind responds to phenomena. And then the root of suffering. The thing about aging is that it, like everything else in nature, is built into the system. And when you pit yourself against the system, the nature of things, you would think somebody would be smart enough to see that inherent in that would be suffering. To put yourself against the way in which it all unfolds. This body is decaying. I can watch it decay. The dysfunctional mythology around aging is one of the creators of so much suffering and the undermining of such a deep resource of wisdom in the world. So suffering, as the Buddha points out, is connected to the way the mind holds on to certain things. Every experience you have of suffering, you can immediately begin, if I'm suffering, where can I look to alleviate my suffering? If I'm suffering because I'm hungry, I can eat. But one of the places I must look is how my mind is defining the reality to create the suffering. Pain is pain. Suffering is something else. You can have a pain and not suffer, or you can have a pain and suffer. Pain is a strong stimulation, is what it is. It has taken me a long time to understand how deeply, because I didn't quite know how to deal with it, how deeply I fall in love with each of these people, and how intendant to that quality of falling into love is the pain of loss of the beloved. While there is pain of the loss of the beloved, there is also the quality of being with that being independent of loss. It's, I'll miss your form, but our essences are here. So I don't have a formula to keep your heart from breaking. I have a formula to keep you from getting so caught in your broken heart if you turn bitter and cynical and close yourself down from life. Because I think the art form is to stay wide open and vulnerable in life and sit with the mystery. Sit with the awe and the pain. Sit with it all. And he sort of talks about doing a meditation around the news. So basically reading the news and then watch what happens to your heart. And the other quote I wrote down was, "Truth waits for eyes unclouded by longing." So, having said that, I'm going to put those reflections and focus on the energy of today's lecture, thinking about all the thoughts and feelings that I had around it in terms of my own experiences and what stood out to me. And I'm going to put that energy into the Animal Oracle deck, and we'll see what card comes of it and what we can learn from that and tie in. So, realizing that it is what it is, we are who we are. Part of the human experience is to fall in and out of love, and to have very deep and very real reactions to pain and suffering. And even in terms of what that means as far as other people go, because some of the reflections he was making was with regards to his judgments about the people that he was learning from in India and who he was sharing space with. So today, the card that came up is the Frog Spirit. And the message behind the card is saying, clear out the clutter. Oh, picked up the wrong book. So let's take a look. So Frog Spirit, clear out the clutter. The Oracle message. Frog Spirit knows that while all the other frogs are croaking away, this is a time for you to simplify and declutter your life so you can feel content on your own lily pad. Even when life isn't creating a total cacophony, we can become drawn to the excitement of lots of noise. Then, the next thing we know, our schedules and homes are cluttered with commitments we regret making and objects taking up valuable space. Even relationships need decluttering, as they often become messy. Frog Spirit appears to tell you to clean house. Prioritize what you need. And get rid of or give away the rest so you can have some space in your day and in your head. You don't need the old stuff and its stories shouting at you from the past. Along with physical clutter, friendships are sometimes kept long past their expiration date, weighing you down with unnecessary baggage. Now is the time to let go. Whatever you need will appear when you need it. So release your grip on all that clutter that is making you feel anxious and burdened. Frog Spirit wants you to reclaim your space, unencumbered by shoulds, oughts, and could have beens. Let go and jump. You are free from all that stuff. Protection message. What's weighing you down? Is it time for a spiritual and psychic cleansing? Are you overdue for letting go of the voices that surround you? They may have started to get into your head, these voices that bog you down and keep you from leaping forward into a better situation. Let others croak and create their dramas while you make space for yourself and for hearing your own thoughts as they arise. Declutter your schedule and stop trying to do all that, do it all, and then some. Let others manage their own baggage rather than allowing it to be dumped on you, for your lily pad needs to be clear of others' clutter. Frog spirit may be coming. Frog spirit may also come bearing a message about your physical space. Do you hold on to things because you're afraid of losing your energetic connection to the past? To people who are no longer in your life? Or to goals that you never pursued? Or could you have these items around because you feel guilty if you get rid of them? Are your storage and your living spaces stuffed with reminders of what you are not, when they should be holding only objects that reflect who you are and aspire to be? If something is no longer making you feel joyful, empowered, and excited, Frog Spirit is telling you to let it go and free yourself to leap forward into something new, trusting you will always have what you need. So, for me, that really stands out. It really speaks to the what I really love about it, what I really related to, and what Ram Dass was talking about was the falling in and out of love with people and situations, and the attachments that we have. So our intentions may be good to go in to be supportive and help and do all of that, but there actually is a weight that comes with that, and there is like an accountability that comes with it, and there is a risk of falling in and out of love. And with that as well, though, comes our own vulnerability and susceptibility to understanding what's going on, to being on the same page, and really being open to projecting our own thoughts and feelings and experiences onto the people that we are connecting with. And the quote that he was talking about in terms of falling in and out of love with people and sort of shielding our hearts was in reference to the work that he did around people who were ill, death, and dying, and that sort of thing, and the sort of breakdown and decay of our bodies. Part of the lecture was really funny and interesting because he spoke to a time when he was offered, I think it was like $12,000 for about a 15-minute gig at a very fancy organized party of like doctors and skincare people, and he thought he was initially selling out, but then he agreed to participate because he was part of an organization called the SIVA Foundation that was actually providing services to help people be able to see, and he figured that at $35 or $40 a pop, $12,000 would go very far in terms of helping people be able to restore their health, to be able to see again. And then he spoke to his experience of like, basically he's seen as promoting this skincare. They all did this exercise where they told them to pinch their skin and then watch the elasticity kind of bounce back, and he didn't have that experience. His didn't bounce back, which was horrifying to them. But anyway, so there's a lot in all of this, but what I love about the Frog Spirit card and the message of decluttering is that it can be part of decluttering our attachments to the things that we experience and witness, and the pain and suffering in other people, which is inherently part of the world, certainly part of the news cycle. But we can also take that to look at our physical lives and our physical surroundings and apply it to the things that we're physically carrying around with us that create a burden or create like emotional attachments. So it just brings new meaning to cleaning house to me. So that's my thoughts, those are my feels, and I wish you a wonderful day. Namaste.